I welcome everyone to the presentation of the latest number of Temes de Disseny. My intervention will be really quick. It's just to frame the context of this journal. It's a journal in design research and engineering research from Elisava. It's been 38 numbers, one per year, so it has kind of a background, a history. Recently, 5 numbers of Temes de Disseny have been changed into a new design, a new editorial board with co-editors from the school and like an international background of editorial boards. And it's a journal that has one of the few journals that it's written in 3 languages, so you can read it in English, Catalan, and Spanish. It has been recently awarded a Laus award for its design, and at the same time has been already indexed. Indexed meaning that it can be cited by other authors, other researchers in the whole world. It's indexed in Scopus, in DOAG, and obviously Google Scholar. And most of it's open access. Not yet, I think. Anyway, I'm Laura Cleries, and Oscar Tomico. We've been doing this work for 5 years, 5 numbers, since number 34. We are in 38. We have Guy Spelt as managing editor, working along with us, and all the researchers and co-editors. And I don't know if you want to add anything else, Oscar?
Yeah, so I think that the kind of identity that this journal has is the possibility, as Laura has said, to create bridges between different cultures and languages. So how can we use design research? How can we perform and write about design research in Catalan, in Spanish, and in English, but also between different levels of expertise and professionality. So we want to have students, professionals, and researchers all together collaborating and writing papers in this journal. That's why we have multiple typologies of articles, from a pictorial where like images are at the same level as the text, to case studies, to more like position papers and so on. So we ensure that everybody can have a say in this. And I think that that's more or less all, right?
Well, mentioning that we have like a database of experts, researchers all over the world over these years. So we can say that it's a solid ecosystem of research, and that's something that also gives ground to the magazine, also at the excellence level. It's a peer-reviewed journal. And I think that's all. If you want to introduce just the title.
So the topic that was decided for the previous number was about this. It was dealing with different kind of issues. It was was thinking about how to merge personal care and planetary care. It was about to see how can we merge us as designers, but us also as person. How can we, in a way, like use design as an action of caring, and how can we care through design? So that's all I wanted to say. And I pass the word to the guest editors. The 2 of them are here, and another one couldn't be present, and the other one is online. But I think that you want to introduce yourself, right? That's what I've heard. Okay. The floor is yours.
The left picture. Today she cannot be here because now she's flying. Elizabeth is PhD in biology and holds a master in human biology and also a master in bioconstruction. Her research discipline is the biohabitability. That means how to create livable spaces through the norms of biology and global health. She is author of several books about this topic, among others, Living Without Toxicants and Your Healthy Home. Second one, the next one, my dear Danielle Wild. She's professor in design for sustainability at UMEO Institute of Design in Sweden and conducts food design transformation research at the Department of Sociology, Environmental and Business Economics at the University of Southern Denmark. Isn't it, Danielle? I read this paragraph because Danielle, and must be perfect, my reading. She seeks to understand how critical, collaborative, and embodied engagement with the challenges of sustainability transition may assist us in finding new ways of living and designing that are intimately situated, personally, locally, regionally, and globally sustainable and sustaining, and that recognize humans as multi-species events, a part of nature and intimately entangled with non-human others. Okay, Daniel? Perfect, thank you. My colleague Ricardo Guasc, PhD in architecture. At Elisava, he directs the postgraduate in workspace design, 2 masters, one in interior space design, and one in interior design for hotels, bars, and restaurants. He's also a member of the Decoding Wellbeing Research Group at Elisava Research. His interest is the study of techniques and resources to design spaces that facilitate and promote well-being. Ricard is the author of the book Fluid Space versus Systematic Space. And me, I'm industrial designer from Elisava, PhD computer science, and now I'm leading the Decoding Wellbeing group. My fields of interest, by my feeling of interest, are the design methodologies that allow the creation of healthy spaces and products and services for well-being. From a global perspective that involves considering human being in all its facets, integrating the unavoidable aspects of respect, conservation, and recovery of the environment, appreciating in it all the living beings that inhabit it. The main motivation for this issue, our main motivation for this issue, was to showcase significant strategies that designers and design researchers are adopting in their commitment with the design of global and fair well-being, from personal to what we call fine well-being, under the ethical and sensitive positioning of care.
Thank you, Anna. Can you hear me clearly? Great. So it's very wonderful to be here, and it has been fantastic being part of putting together this special issue. It's a wonderful group of people to be working with, and we bring so many different perspectives together. And what we decided to do to find a common ground in the issue was to propose the skin as a common thread to unite design and art with life and health. But rather than consider the skin to be a limit or a border or a reality or division, a content or a container, the way that Art Povera artist Giuseppe Pannoni does, we instead decided to consider the skin, like our bodies, to be porous, a porous key to our multiplicity, interconnected with nature. And this is an idea that's proposed by Stacey Alaimo, who is a professor, researcher, and author in the environmental humanities. And she works in science studies, new materialism, and material feminisms. Building on that, we use the notion of the 5 skins that's proposed by Friedensreich Hundertwasser as a benchmark in finding opportunities for a more sustainable balance between humans and the rest of nature. Hundertwasser visualizes a way of creating and relating to the environment with interaction interfaces through 5 skins, And these skins are formed by the epidermis, or our organic skin, our clothing, our buildings and houses, our identity, and the planet as a whole. So rather than considering these skins as barriers or joining points that enable us to move between these different areas, we take a biophilic position. We propose instead that Alamo's porous understanding of the skin, of our different skins, affords better understanding of people in their relationality, from their most personal and intimate dimension to their social, cultural, aesthetic, and environmental dimensions, as part of nature, of Gaia, rather than separate from her. And this idea is addressed in various ways in the articles included in this issue. And I'd like to just go through them, through the 5 skins. So if we consider the body as the first skin, or the epidermis, this is approached through somesthetics in the articles, which explores how all manner of bodily sensations are perceived and how people leverage bodily sensations, whether they're pleasurable or unpleasant. And they leverage these sensations to learn to move and think and feel in different ways, and to become aware of their body and sharpen their faculties of awareness through their body. The second skin is considered through clothing's ability to care for sensations of well-being and comfort. It links design with these sensations, as well as with the feelings and emotions and values that these sensations bring forth. This way of thinking underscores the need to reflect on how disability, for example, can be socially constructed. So disability, it's not only a medical definition. A person can be disabled by the environment that designers envision and construct. So designers need to consider the economies and the exchanges between social representations and the body, and to recognize that they're reciprocal and thus complexly embodied. It's not straightforward or simplistic. The third skin links the exigency to design houses and buildings with the need for a quality indoor environment. Indoor environments need to enable people's biological systems to find their balance. They shouldn't require radical adaptation from people. Just all they should require is the ability to spend time inside. So light, color, materials, temperature, biophilia, and more can be parameters with which to build better health for people in the environment as we design indoor spaces. The fourth skin relates to identity, and it's approached in this issue from the perspective of giving value to diversity, whether it's social diversity, cultural, physical, philosophical, emotional, or intellectual diversity, and recognizing that these traits are not isolated, but they're intersectional. Designing for this skin requires giving voice to different groups within the creative process of design, promoting listening as a tool to identify the needs of others and consider what they might contribute, how they might experience a design, and what feelings are awakened in them by an object, material, environment, system, or service. In a society that is increasingly in need of mental health care, this approach is key in the promotion of holistic care, both individually and for society's health. The fifth skin, which is the final of our 5 skins, relates to the planet, and it includes care for cities and towns, of all living beings that make up the environment, and of the environment itself. This skin brings us back to the theory of Gaia, of a living planet, which harbors diverse life that exists in agonistic harmony, that is self-regulating, that has finite resources, and is home to pressing social, climatic, and biodiversity emergencies. By addressing all 5 of Hundertwasser's skins, the objective in this special issue is to provide examples of design research, new options and responses for global health challenges, and good practices in envisioning design as a tool to build life through the promotion of sustainable and healthy practices. I pass over to Ricardo.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Okay, I would like to say that all of these thoughts you can read in the introduction that we made for the issue. That is in the text that we made for the issue, that we wrote for the issue. Okay, related to all of this, we made some objectives for launching the call for this issue. These topics were a proactive approach, that's to say, to question whether design can be an active and positive tool in creating spaces where life develops in all its dimensions and in balance with biological systems. Is based on the precautionary principle, that's to say, the possibility to go beyond regulations, not to stay quite with the regulations of the main institutions that are dealing with health. To consider health and well-being from a global perspective, tackling the caring of people, the environment and its ecosystems under the framework of One Health. And also to consider it as a transdisciplinary task. This is why Temes the Design invited designers, product, service, system, space, graphic designers, urban planners, architects, as well as medicine doctors, biologists, environmentalists, sociologists, with a care through design challenge. And finally, researchers and specialists in exposoma, biohabitability, neuroscience, and humanities to contribute with their projects, studies and research that help to draw new scenarios where the predominant goals are those that care for life in all its dimensions. The second one is an ethical vision. That's to say, to launch a debate in terms of ethical repercussion of the advancement of new technologies and the inertia of growth of the consumer society. To delve into the biotechnologies and prosthetic worlds that revert not only to care, but also to increase capabilities, slowing aging, genetic hybridation, and more, with the consequence of high inequalities between sectors of society due to their economical potential. And also, inside this topic of ethical vision, to consider the respect for personal and individual choices in front of the automation of characterizations with the consequence of potential discrimination in access to a healthy life. The third topic was designing for the body and mind. That's to say, to gain a comprehensive understanding of human health and well-being from a systemic perspective, to rediscover the naive contact with the world from body and mind to finally grant in a philosophical status, a view over individual perception and soma aesthetics, and also to understand the intrinsic relationship of human beings with nature, delving into concepts such as biophilia, biomimetics, and neuroarchitecture. Fourth one is a healthy environment and exposome. That's to say, to understand the extent to which our well-being depends on the set of environmental factors and exposure to which we are subjected, detecting the factors of imbalance and the factors of self-regulation, regeneration, and good health. And also contrast the impact of the immediate environment on health, considering location, characteristics, construction, technical infrastructure and facilities, the shape of the space, and the things that can be inside and also in our body, clothes, food, and tools. The fifth one was care territory, physical and digital networks. That's to say, to analyze the systems involved in promoting global health, the physical and digital networks that deals with the territory of physical and mental health management, always taking into account the importance of communication design to empower and involve people and make them participate. And finally, the sixth one is the management of global health. That's to say, to articulate a critical analysis of the reality of health management, both in relation to territorial organization and political management, to implement healthy design in all policies in order to promote global health and observe the role of education in the future and of health and well-being. Neil?
So in line with those objectives, the articles that we gather evidence an association between care and design. And in doing so, they propose a multifaceted ethical positioning for design that designers can draw on as they design ways of being and products and services and clothing and building and housings and networks or skins. Design and design research offer strategies for addressing some of the key challenges that we face and for finding holistic, justice-oriented responses to these challenges that, although the challenges are as numerous and pluriversal as the professionals who practice design, they share certain foundations and principles, such as making a commitment to spaces and objects that care, considering identity within social and biological diversity, and caring for the environment with creative processes that include the entire life cycles of materials within the framework of the circular economy. Such moves are key to incorporating the health vector in all phases of the creative process. And so I want to highlight 2 papers and 2 pictorials as exemplars of these ideas. So the first paper by Ana Pujadas, for example, argues for the inclusion of caring values in design practice, following the examples of Joan Tronto and Bernice Fisher. So Tronto offers 3 criteria to define care. Care is relational, care is contextual and anti-essentialist, and care is democratic and inclusive. And she says that these criteria should be associated with and embedded in design if it is to embody a commitment to care. So in complement, Fisher proposes that on the most general level, we view caring as a species activity that includes everything that we do to maintain, continue, and repair our world so that we can live in it as well as possible. As Fisher explains, that world includes our bodies and ourselves and our environment, all of which we seek to interweave in a complex life-sustaining web. So building on this legacy, Pujadas considers the concept of care throughout the history of design for well-being. They illustrate the principal concepts of an ethics of care and apply them to the philosophy of design, and in doing so, position vulnerability as an indispensable moral position for designing from care. And they narrate a design method from the care philosophy point of view and use design examples to discuss what it would mean to think from this perspective of care in the field of design. In parallel, if we have the next slide, in Effective Bodies, Intimate Design Practices to Reinvent the Everyday, Roger Paez and Manuela Valchanova argue for first-person perspective approaches to foster intimacy and affect through the lens of a politics of care. They exercise democracy through the human body as a radical relational unit that is enhanced by this politics of care. They use 2 case studies that they describe as academic projects carried out within the context of an uncertain present to investigate some of the implications of intimate design practices and to argue that such practices have the capacity to foster intimacy and affect through the lens of the politics of care. They draw on the notion of effective bodies to claim that design can explore new paths to reinvent the everyday. And they focus on recent crisis-ridden contexts to examine how intimate practices that reformulate everyday politics can reclaim temporality, active citizenship, and radical affectivity as infrastructural needs in contemporary urban habitats. Within this work, they discuss Spinoza's ethics of affection. And when we consider this alongside Pujadas' ethics of care, the 2 articles together postulate sensitive positions that recover feelings in the action of design. They acknowledge the influence of the other in our interactions, as well as one's own vulnerability and the importance of letting oneself be affected. This ethical positioning places the individual within a relational network of being. It presupposes moral qualities such as responsibility and care, and it is based on the interdependence between humans, other beings, and the environment, and on the vulnerability of these actors. Furthermore, it considers exposure to the other and a willingness to interrelate with this other, to interact, attempt to understand and respond as a fundamental part of being both human and Gaia. If we go to Squeaky Pain, this focus on intimacy that's present in the two papers is echoed by Arifa Dilademir, Christy Kusk, and Nimkulrad, who developed first-person perspective methods to cultivate what they call bodily disturbing felt experiences. And they cultivated this for ideation and for testing, effectively transposing sensations between the designer and this other in a bidirectional flow. So their pictorial illustrates methodological tools for articulating the felt experience of chronic pain that they use then for designing somaesthetic interactions to mediate these disturbing or painful experiences, and as a way to improve people's somatic knowledge and their lives as a result. So they work directly with someone who is experiencing pain, and in order to find these wearable embodiments for it as a pathway of exploration. And they use various tools in the process to access first and second person pain experiences for design use. And these tools, they complement one another to provide access to the versatile aspects of felt experiences. The fourth article and the second pictorial that relates specifically to these ideas of design and care that I'm bringing forward is Nadia Campo-Wojtuk and Marie-Louise Yulsenegor's pictorial Biomenstrual, More Than Human Design of Menstrual Care Practices. These authors take the concerns we've been speaking about into the more than human realm, leaning on feminist post-human theories to explore multi-species entanglement. They use research through design to investigate how design might engage with the nutritious value of menstrual blood, counter the polluting materiality of sanitary products, and open up considerations about for whom menstrual fluids have value. In doing so, they critique the medicalization of menstruation and of women's bodies, and framing bodily transitions as problems to solve. This problematization of the view and handling of women's bodies are so important, you know, particularly in these times. If we look to what's been happening in the United States as they repealed Roe versus Wade, which enshrined the right to abortion, and many states in America are going on to criminalize people who have abortions, people who perform abortions, and people who assist others in gaining access to abortions. We can see that the political, identity-based, embodied, and if we think of all the skins in terms of the ownership of the women's body, it's really challenged by these recent political moves in another part of the world that cause us, I think, to pause here in Europe.
It is difficult to present the perspective of care in design without using the concepts of agency, inclusion, and multidisciplinarity. The complexity of the context in which human life develops, with the intermingling of conditioning factors such as culture, economy, politics, social structure, and the physical environment itself. This complexity makes it difficult to propose from the design alone solutions that have a significant impact, let alone a lasting impact. Several problems need a multidisciplinary approach to untangle their complexity. We need designers, therapists, medicine doctors, sociologists, cultural agents, physiologists, those profiles that allow to collect a multifaceted vision of the problem. In the article of Herbit and Chabot, the authors present a design process of several students' projects that had the objective of improving people's self-awareness of health. People from underinvested communities with negative health outcomes. The process has two important characteristics. First one, a multidisciplinary approach. We can see occupational therapists working with communication designers. And a second one, I consider quite important, is taken in order to scale the impact from the individual to the social, to the community. They use strategies from the social ecological theory, a theory that as early as 1992, Daniel Stokols proposed to translate into guidelines for health promotion in communities. And for this work, it worked very, very well. Back to the topic of this paper, the self-awareness of health. We are talking about becoming aware of and taking responsibility for our own health. This is agency. Van der Kolk defined agency as, I read, is the technical term for the feeling of being in charge of your life. Knowing where you stand, knowing that you have a say in what happens to you, knowing that you have some having the tools and resources to understand what our circumstances are, and tools and resources to act. Education and freedom. But agency is access to education and freedom, but also needs a context sensitive to our conditions that allow us shaping our circumstances. I'm talking about context sensitive to the uniqueness, to our lovely uniqueness. Cecilia Crawford, in this paper, moved to a position where she can evidence that the standardization of the architecture and space design solutions leave some people, unique and singular, as all of us are, out of the picture. She's talking about inclusion. I think that we must talk of inclusion.
Carrying out a rigorous research, which entails the methodology called evidence-based design on the condition of spaces in relation to the well-being of users in the development of a workspace project. The research mixes the taking of measurable records on the main characteristics of the place with interviews to verify the perception of users, which is not always coincident, and it is also supported by trend studies. It's a powerful example of a scientific methodology applied to spaces, which is unusual precisely because of what the authors express as the main difficulty of the process, which is the time control, since the requirement for immediate results in the form of the resultant executive project with conflicts with the time required for research. This is why the accumulated experience in previous exploratory studies is important. It means the convenience of a continuous practice of this type of research in similar processes. So this encourages us to the researchers to not non-stop in the research depending of the immediate goals. It's important to have a continuity in this research because afterwards the processes are very hard and sometimes require more time than we really have. So this is all. These are the key words about what we are saying now. And finally, to thanks your participation and to thanks the editors-in-chief, the authors, and all the participants for their enthusiasm. We expect the next issue will become at least as nice as we think this issue is. So, to encourage you to participate in this issue or in the future. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Guy Maspela. I'm the managing editor of the journal. First of all, I would like to thank all the guest editors for their hard work on this issue and through all the process, which has been quite interesting and very you did a very thorough job, and we appreciate that from the journal. Also, the support that they receive from the editors-in-chief is also very important. And the graphic editor, Albert Romagosa Studio, who did a wonderful job, as in all the past issues, in the layout of this issue. Before passing the word to you for if you have any questions to the guest editors or the editors-in-chief or whoever, I would like to just say a few words. The journal and its full issue is available to download in research.elisava.net for a whole year until the next issue comes. Each one of the articles is available to download open access at tdd.elisava.net. And if you would like to have the printed version of the journal, you can purchase it at shop.elisava.net. But for those of you who came today, we have copies for you, which I will give you during the Q&A in just a few seconds. And I would like to hold a minute and thank Laura for her hard work and vision during all these years. She is now stepping out as editor-in-chief, and I would like to welcome Dana Esparza, who will join Oscar as editors-in-chief for the next numbers. And Dana, if you would like to say just a few words about the following issue.
Thank you, PhD spelled. And related to next issue, the number is gonna close the call tomorrow, but only to know, so if you are interested, as you see in the title, yeah, thanks. This number is gonna explore these emerging habitats and the roles of design as a world-making agent. We wanted to celebrate this year also. Elisava is publishing a book related to design for city making. So we also wanted to collaborate through this number on the area. And we invited, as editors, we as a guest editors to Roger Paez, who is the director of the Master in Ephemeral Architecture, and also Mariana Amatullo, that she is professor at Parsons, the New School, and also she has published a lot of books about social innovation, and she's co-founded of Design Matters, and she was president from the Comuns Association. So they are a great team who are working in this issue. And what else?